Chapter 15. What Lives Above. Another flum surfaced late in the observation period. This one was the largest Rowan had seen, its body extending perhaps 60 meters from the tapered leading edge to the trailing membrane that fanned out wide behind it. It rose slowly, its forward section parting the cloud surface before the rest of the body followed. The creature held position half emerged, its forward section above the cloud line, its rear half still submerged and fed. The open leading edge drew in cloud matter in a steady, visible flow, the particulates passing through the translucent body and exiting behind as cleaner air that left a pale streak on the surface. Marcus watched it through his tinted lenses, his hands on the rail, and called out the observations. Rowan wrote them down with his good hand. The stack of instrument log sheets and the pen passed between them by unspoken agreement. Size and coloration, feeding behavior, the internal structures visible through the membrane. They worked this way for what was left of the window, building a record of something neither of them fully understood. Below them, somewhere under the cloud, Helionaut 1 had descended with 2 crew on its deck, where there should have been 3. The wind that had stressed Rowan's cable to 9 of its 12 strands had thrown a man off the other platform. A young pilot named Davin, on his second ascent. Marcus had not spoken of him since the call came down through the cloud. He had gone back to the flums instead, his pen steady and his voice steady, and Rowan understood why. There was nothing to be done for the boy from up here, and the sky would not stay open much longer. Then Marcus straightened from the rail and sat on the platform deck beside Rowan, his legs crossed. The honest answer to most questions about the flums is that we do not know, Marcus said. I can tell you what we have observed. I cannot tell you what it means. What have you observed? Rowan said. Marcus recited it the way Rowan's mother recited before information, as data, organized and catalogued, and given without embellishment. The flums moved in loose groups of 3 to 7, migrating along patterns that tracked atmospheric particulate density but never closely enough to predict where they would surface next. Their echolocation, the chorus, came mostly in the deep dim, though it had been heard at every hour, the frequency patterns complex and varied and never quite repeating. Individual flums could be told apart by the markings on their membranes, but counting the whole population was beyond them, because no one could stay above the clouds longer than 90 minutes at a stretch. Their origin was unknown. That is the question that matters most, and the one I can answer least, Marcus said. Were they here before the Opa King, living at altitudes no one had reason to observe? Did they evolve in response to the changed atmosphere, which would require an evolutionary speed that contradicts everything I know about biology? Did they migrate from somewhere else? He looked at Rowan. I was trained in aerospace engineering. I can tell you how the atmosphere behaves. I cannot tell you how a living organism appears inside it. The atmospheric science textbook in the library has a section on filter feeding, Rowan said. Baleen whales pull seawater through their mouths and strain out the food. The mechanism is the same, scaled up and pushed into the air. I know. Marcus nodded. Dr. Okoye showed me the book after you mentioned it. The marine biology analogy is useful but incomplete. Whales evolved over millions of years in an established ocean. These creatures exist in an atmosphere that changed 72 years ago. The timescale does not fit. Unless they were already here, Rowan said. Already feeding on whatever the atmosphere held at altitude, where no one had reason to look. The Opa King was not a new world for them. It was more food. Marcus was quiet. He looked at the flum, still half emerged at the cloud surface, its body pulsing slowly as it fed. That is a theory I had not considered, he said. It would explain the population size. A species that was already here with a sudden expansion in its food supply would breed fast. The chorus frequency patterns, Rowan said. You said they correlate roughly with migration, but the textbook said echolocation does more than one thing. It is navigation, and it is also how the animals find food. The frequencies might be tracking feeding density, not movement. Marcus frowned and stared at the flum for a long moment. The frequency shifts we have recorded do not track cleanly with the movement we observe, he said. I put that down to measurement error and thin data. But if the frequencies are tracking a variable I was not measuring. He stopped and reached for the log sheets. Rowan handed them across with his good hand. Marcus turned to a clean sheet and began writing. His pen moving fast, the careful handwriting abandoned for something closer to shorthand. He wrote without speaking for a long stretch, then read back what he had written and looked at Rowan. Where did you study? Marcus asked. I did not study, Rowan said. I read a physics textbook and a medical encyclopedia on a mountain farm. I memorized what I could and understood perhaps half of it. Marcus folded the sheet in half and then in half again, careful with the creases. This goes into the observation archive. I will note the frequency correlation, the feeding density connection, and your name on the record. It is not a theory, Rowan said. It is a guess from half-understood reading. Guesses are what we have, Marcus said. The data fills in around them. He put the folded sheet inside his coat. I have worked alone on this for 3 years. Observation data, particulate measurements, harmonic recordings, yet what I lack is interpretation. An aerospace engineer can describe the physical environment, but the biology and the ecology and the communication patterns need a different mind, or at least a different bookshelf. The largest flum stopped feeding. Its forward section dipped, the long body angling down, and then the whole of it went under at once, faster than anything that size should move. The cloud surface dropped where the body had been, and the displaced air came back across the platform sideways. A shove with weight behind it. The deck yawed hard. Rowan's feet slid, and the bound hand closed on the rail before he could stop it, the raw line across his palm flaring under the grip. He held. Above them the cable snapped taut at an angle, and Rowan's eyes went straight up it, 40 meters to where 3 strands of the braid ran lighter than the rest. One had parted on the way up. 2 had stressed. On the ascent, Marcus had said the 9 that remained would hold the descent as long as nothing pulled them sideways. The dive had pulled them sideways. Lena was already paying out tether, bleeding the shove into slack the way she had through every gust of the climb. The cable held its angle. The 3 light strands took the load and did not give, and the retraction drum groaned through the shock, and Rowan heard his own work inside the sound. The bearings carrying the rotation clean, the tensioner he had nursed earlier staying quiet this time. The platform swung once more, smaller and settled. Nobody spoke for a moment. It was the same kind of pull that had thrown Davin off the other platform, and every person on the deck knew it. Lena brought the platform back to level. Held, she said, and did not look up from the controls. Good repair. She did not say it warmly, but she said it, and from Lena that was the whole of it. The clouds settled back into their rolling texture, the feeding trail already filling in. The amber flum was still out there to the east, a faint disturbance under the surface, moving steadily. His pack sat secured at the platform's storage rail, the antibiotics inside wrapped in waxed cloth, the full course waiting on his mother's lungs. He had agreed to 1 more day, and the day was nearly used. How many people have seen this? Rowan asked. From the helionauts, perhaps 40 over the past 3 years, Marcus said. From the ground, no one. The flums do not come below the cloud layer as far as we have ever seen. The chorus is the only proof of them that reaches the surface. He paused. 40 witnesses, out of every settlement on the continent. That is, who knows what is happening up here. Rowan ran the numbers. 3 observers to a crew, a few ascents a month, the same faces flying most of them. That was how 40 people came to be the only ones who had seen this. Other cities might have platforms. Other observers might be doing what Marcus was doing. He had no way to know. The understanding of this thing above the clouds was being built by maybe 100 people, and most of them did not know the others existed. He knew that problem from the farm. One person doing the work of 3, and the work arriving regardless. Lena's voice came from the pilot station, flat and procedural. Descent in 5 minutes. Battery at 18%. Oxygen at 55 minutes. Marcus looked east to where the amber flum tracked under the cloud. One more pass on that one. Give it 2 minutes and it breaks the surface again. And I can read the markings off the forward membrane. You can read them next ascent, Lena said. 18% does not negotiate. Marcus held the look a moment longer. Then he turned from the rail. Next ascent, he agreed, and the want in it was plain. The numbers were absolute. 18% battery meant the solar cells were not charging fast enough to hold the platform up for much longer. Even here, in full sun, they could slow the drain and not stop it. 55 minutes of oxygen against a 30-minute descent was a margin, but not a generous one. And the descent would run on 9 strands. Marcus stood. He walked to the rail and looked out at the cloud sea and the sky above it. Rowan joined him. The sun had shifted since breakthrough, and the shadows of the platform's frame had swung a little across the deck. The blue overhead was deeper than any sky he had read about, darkening toward violet at the top, where the air thinned to almost nothing. We will not see full sun in our lifetimes, Marcus said. He did not say it with sadness. He said it the way he gave any other measurement. At current feeding rates, with the population numbers we can guess at, real change in the sky takes another 50 to 200 years. The range is wide because the data is thin. He turned to Rowan. But the children in that school might see twice the light we have. Their children might see real sunlight reach the ground without a light well. That is what the data points to. Slow and uncertain, and there. Rowan looked at the sky one final time. The blue above, the sun hard and white overhead. The light striking down across the cloud surface and catching the bow waves where the flums moved beneath it. The chorus was full around him. The sound of creatures feeding on the substance of the barrier above his mountain. He took it all and set it to memory, careful and exact. He wanted to tell his mother. Descent initiating, Lena said. Brace positions. The platform tilted. The cable drum engaged, paying the line out under brake. Rowan's mechanism working in reverse now and lowering the platform in a controlled descent. The cloud surface rose to meet them. The blue above thinned, narrowing to a bright circle that shrank as the clouds closed in. The last direct sunlight caught the upper edge of the platform frame. A line of gold on aluminum. And then it was gone. The clouds swallowed them. The moisture came back at once, beating on every surface, and the aluminum deck that had been warm and gleaming in the sun went cold under Rowan's hands. Condensation forming on the metal in a film that ran in thin streams toward the platform's edges. The temperature dropped and the air thickened. The open quiet of the sky above gave way to the muffled, wet compression of the cloud interior. Sound dampened and flattened the way it had been on the way up. But he saw the clouds differently now. Somewhere in this medium, around them and above them, the flums moved and fed and sang, their bodies passing through the same gray that pressed against his face and beaded on the platform's rail. The descent was faster than the ascent. Gravity helped where the springs had labored. The turbulence came first. And Rowan kept his eyes on the cable through it, on the light strands carrying the platform down through the band where a sideways gust would do the most harm. No gust came. The strands held their angle. Lena worked the brake lever in small even pulls. And then the dry band passed, and the dense wet base closed over them. where visibility collapsed to nothing. Then sound came from below, faint at first, filtering up through the cloud base. Voices, and the distant clang of metal, and the gathered noise of a city at work. It grew louder with each meter of descent, pressing in where the open sky had left only silence. By the time the platform cleared the cloud base, Meridian's noise was all around them, loud and close and human, and after the quiet above it felt like stepping from a still room into a crowd. The city appeared below them, its walls and levels and balcony gardens and the hangar at the top. Pip stood at the railing, small with distance, one hand raised. She grew clearer as the platform dropped toward the rail, until Rowan could make out the way she was leaning over the metal to watch them come down. The platform settled onto its rails, and Rowan unhooked his harness with his good hand. The medicine for his mother was in his pack. The log sheet with his name on it was folded inside Marcus's coat, and the blue above the clouds had not left him, even with the gray closed over it again.
Chapter Guild, Stories for Your Mind.